So Royal Tiger's email campaign is pretty effective because I ended up purchasing another #1 infield from them. I opted to go with the hand select option this time around, especially for the bore, just so I would get a guaranteed good bore. So aside from a quick look at the FFL, I haven't really taken a close inspection of this weapon. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at it. Buttstock looks pretty good. The screws are actually in really nice shape. There's some pitting on them, but most of the time these screws are just bashed into basically nails over time. So that's pretty good. Just some slight dings in the stock. Metal looks pretty good. Most of the finish appears to still be there. I'll know more when I start cleaning it. Let's go and take a look at the date and manufacturer. So it looks like a Lithgow. Lithgows were made in Australia, and it's a #3 star, dated 1942. So it's pretty cool getting a Lithgow. I know most of the manufacturers are Indian or British, so it's pretty unique getting a Lithgow, especially one from the 1940s date. Stock looks pretty good. Some good finish there on the metal. A lot of times these wood pieces right here are broken, but they're in good shape. That's a good finish on the metal. A little dirty here on the nose cap, but that should clean up nicely. It appears like some kind of rag was used at some point as a sling, and that broke a long time ago. So I'll be cutting that off. Looks pretty good. Little scratch here, it looks like, on the cover for the safety. There's the import mark. Metal also on the side looks pretty good. See a ding there in the stock. Little worn finish there, but nothing serious. Pretty good finish on this band. And nose cap looks pretty good here. It looks like it was scraped almost. So you see like a scrape here on the nose cap. Kind of coincides perhaps with the scrape here. So I'm not sure if that happened in its shipping or what, but either way, nothing really to worry about. So go ahead and take a closer look at the bore. Bore looks pretty dirty, but you can see it's got a lot of nice lands and grooves in there, really sharp. So I'll be curious to see what it looks like after I clean it up, but the bore looks excellent so far. So overall, pretty nice. I really like it. Pretty happy with what I got from them. You know, I've gotten a few #1s from them, and just kind of rolling the dice in the original condition versions of them. You know, they've come out okay. Usually the finish is pretty worn, and the bores are definitely shootable, but not as good as this one. So if this is kind of a measure of what you get with the hand select fee, I would definitely recommend it. I believe it's definitely worth the extra money to get this. So I'll go ahead and take this apart, break it down, and show you some of the parts once I've disassembled it, and I'll clean it up. So here it is all broken down, so go ahead and take you through all the parts. Starting here with the receiver, you can see the Lithgow stamp with the 1942 date. The Lithgow factory actually changed their stamp. The First World War stamp had like a symbol on it, whereas this spells out the Lithgow and everything. I'll show you perhaps in another video the difference. I have a 1915 Lithgow I can show for an example. You see a lot of dirt and grime here. You can see the serial number. You see the barrel and the receiver serial numbers do match. Really dirty here under the wood, but I mean, I don't see any pitting or anything to be concerned about. Some rust there, but that should come right off. Some oil. should clean up pretty nicely. Looking here at the forestock, you can see it's got some mold in there, as well as some vegetation and all kinds of stuff, but that should clean right out. You can see that in there. If you do see mold and stuff in your weapon, it's always a good idea when you do clean it out. Make sure you wear a mask. Don't want to breathe that stuff in. Bolt's in really nice shape. Really like the threads on the firing pin. They're really nice and clean. Spring looks good. Bolt looks to be in pretty good shape overall. Firing pin's good. You can see the stock bolt actually looks really nice. A lot of times the stock bolt, especially these cylindrical ones, they get a lot of pitting on them. That's why you see a lot of wasted versions of that to try to prevent it from getting stuck. See there, the trigger guard looks pretty good, just dirty. Don't see any pitting or anything on it, just dirt. Magazine looks good. I'll have to take it apart, clean it, but looks good overall. All these metal parts just look good. I mean, they're dirty, but just should have some pretty nice finish once I clean them up. Same deal here with the wood. You can see the mildew and stuff that's on it. Really dirty. I did see something kind of curious with the forestock here. Looks like a nail was driven through it to keep it tight up against the forestock. Not really sure what I'm going to do with that yet. I'm probably going to just leave it if this is, pretty much fused in there. Because I feel like there'll just be more damage to the wood. You can see it's pretty well embedded in there, and try to remove it. But depending on whether I decide, I might just at least cut it here. That way this nail isn't sticking in the wood anymore. Buttstock looks pretty good. Sometimes you get cracks and gouges around here, but it's good. It also has a nice tight fit into the receiver. Sometimes the wood here shrinks. I'll probably take the butt plate off and everything a little later, just to break down the rest of it. I'm always a little careful with wood screws. I'm looking forward to cleaning it up and seeing how it all looks. I'll do some videos of it once I have this cleaned up. So here's the rifle parts all cleaned up. Basically stripped them down, covered them with some hop spray, and just let them sit for a little bit, and then I wiped them down. Mostly it was just rags and Q-tips. So it took a lot of the gunk out of it. Looks pretty nice now. So go ahead and take you through the parts, show you all how they turned out. Forestock's got a little more work to go. I put some linseed oil on it. This is all just chalk from when I was looking at markings. It's a little dirty, but you can see the finish is peeking through there. Looks pretty nice. Went ahead and installed this cover right here for the rear sight. Didn't want to lose any of the parts. All the little screws I have in a separate bag. I didn't lay out here as I want to lose them. Bolt looks pretty good. Doesn't look worn out. A lot of times you see the bolts start to wear out here, and that can be a big problem. This is an example of a bolt that got worn out pretty badly there. And you can see that curve that starts to develop, and what happens is when it's cocked, it'll slip out of place. So you definitely don't want that. See some markings there. Here in the cocking piece. W on this side. The spring came out really nicely. Same with the bolt head. Magazine looks like it's in really good shape. It's not dented or anything. A lot of it's original finish too. A lot of times you just see them in the white here, especially when the Ethiopian cache, but this one came out nicely. Trigger guard came out nice too. A lot of the original bluing still there. And same with this nose cap as well. buttstock came out nicely too. So got this little gouge here, but otherwise it's nice. It fits nice and tight. A lot of times the wood here shrinks and it gets kind of wobbly, but this came out really nicely. Look at the stock bolt. It's almost in perfect condition. It looks excellent. A lot of times these are all pitted up and corroded. That looks really good. Same thing here with the band here. Looks like it's in really nice shape. Bluing's still there. Same here with the horse stock. I've decided that just kind of leave the nail here for now. I might cut this part of the nail off so I don't get stuck if I take this apart. It's kind of sharp, but the way this is seated in the wood is just, I'm not going to risk damaging the wood trying to get that out. And then this piece right here came out pretty nicely too. So I took this into some better light because I put some chalk on all the markings. I want to take you through what the markings mean and kind of give some background to the rifle. So this rifle was made in the Lithgow Small Arms Factory. So that MA stamp is for, and it was in 1942. You can see it's got some inspection and proofing marks. That's what those little stars are that you see everywhere. You can see the serial numbers match for the barrel and the receiver. It also matches here on the nose cap. This FTR stamp means that it went through a factory repair. Basically, it was re-arsenal, refinished in the factory at some point. So flipping over to the other side, you can see here more stamps from the factory, inspection and proofing. This AF stamp here means that it was issued to Australian forces. Sometimes you see more specific stamps there for Light Horse and some other regiments in the Australian Army, especially in the World War I models. Now this stamp's important. It's hard to make out, but it's MA 55. That means that this rifle went through a re-arsenal in 1955 at the Small Arms Factory in Lithgow. So this rifle was, refinished basically at the factory before it was sent to Ethiopia at some point. So just kind of an interesting backstory for the weapon. I was able to also see here, it's really hard to put chalk on it, but there's also an MA55 here on the rear sight and also on the magazine. So it looks like a lot of the parts were probably swapped out, replaced, or inspected and put back on. So it definitely had a lot of work done on it when it went back to the Lithgow factory. Here's the rifle all cleaned up and reassembled. Go ahead and take a closer look. See, the wood looks pretty good. Probably do a few more cleaning sessions on it just to really clean out some of the grime and everything in it, but it looks pretty good so far. See that Lithgow marking? Put some chalk in it. There's some shallow parts. It looks like there was like a dent right here, but still pretty well visible. And the bolt's really smooth. Finish looks good. Just overall in excellent condition. Really turned out very well. You can see the wood and the metal has a really good finish on it. Wood's in good shape. Looks like a bit of a scratch here at some point, but looks like that was probably repaired when it was sent back to the Small Arms Factory in Lithgow. This is probably the worst finish on the weapon. It's this part right here, but still looks pretty good. go ahead and take a closer look at the bore now that it's cleaned up. Overall, an excellent example of a Lithgow produced #1 Mark III star. Really happy with what I got. You know, it's hard to tell what service history this weapon went through, but these weapons were all over the South Pacific, as well as North Africa and various other conflicts during and after the Second World War. It's always nice to have a piece of history. Really liked what Royal Tiger picked out for me, and look forward to doing more videos in the future. If you'd like to see more of them, please feel free to like and subscribe.